Greetings, creatures, cadavers, and curious mortals, and welcome to Radio Transylvania. While I was researching episode 12 of the podcast, I found myself wanting to take a deeper dive into a Halloween special, but talking about a visual medium on an audio format like a podcast didn't sound like a good time, so here I am with a video. I am here to tell you about a 90s cartoon that is equal parts charm, spooky fun, and questionable choices. I am here to talk to you about Lumpkin the Pumpkin. Lumpkin was created by singer-songwriter Bobby Goldsboro, who wrote all of the songs and dialogue for the special and did the voice acting for several characters. This was part of Goldsboro's attempt to shift his career toward children's entertainment. Lumpkin is one of 4 animated specials that Bobby Goldsboro created, and after that, he made Swamp Creatures of Lost Lagoon, a television show where he not only wrote every episode, songs included, but also voiced literally every character. Like, they gave these costumes animatronic mouths so that he could remotely control them, even though obviously they needed multiple actors. They couldn't just stick Bobby Goldsboro inside every mascot. He probably wishes they could. Also, side note, this frog's name is Ribbit E. Lee, and I am not okay with it. But let's set all those swamp creatures, Easter bunnies, and Christmas elves aside and focus on Lumpkin the Pumpkin. We started with the opening number, and so far so good. We've got these opening titles, and they look pretty cheesy, but, serviceable given the context. And the opening song, I think, works really well here. It sets a fun yet spooky atmosphere. The music is kind of bouncy, but it also has a bit of suspense and foreboding undertones. It kind of reminds me of Sorcerer's Apprentice. Like, specifically the part at the beginning where it's kind of going just like, dun 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 dun.
Deep inside the pumpkin patch, sitting in a row, the strangest pumpkins you have ever seen.
And since Goldsboro is best known for being a singer, it's not a surprise that the vocals here are good. He goes all in on sounding spooky, which I think you have to do for a song like this to work. Any shred of self-awareness ruins the magic. But then once things start to move, the animation feels a bit off. At first, though, I was having trouble putting my finger on it. Because this ghost can just kind of float around, he doesn't have to walk or interact with the environment, and the pumpkins are just kind of turning and bouncing, so there's only so much you can really mess that up. So I was having trouble deciding whether the animation actually was bad or I was just being too judgy. Like, this dancing pumpkin doesn't look great, but these witch silhouettes look fine. So the first time I watched it, it took me a minute to really settle my feelings into one place. Then this witch starts dancing, and I realize, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the animation is bad. Like, look at her. Look at the way she moves. Look at the way her head gets cut off from the top of the screen. And then these pumpkin clones come in, and it's like, okay, now at least I know what we're in for. I can just strap in and enjoy the ride. Now all we need is some sort of a story, which begins with 2 witches in a pumpkin patch. And in case, for some reason, that wasn't perfectly clear to you, don't worry. The narrator lays it out and explains very clearly what's going on.
It's a frightful night, all right. Tara, the good little witch, and her mother Maggie are in the pumpkin patch.
And this continues to happen throughout the special. Like, every time we move to a new location, the narrator will say, like, here's where we are now, and the characters are doing this. Let's head over there and see what's going on. Like, it really made me think that Lumpkin may have originally been made for the radio or for an audio cassette, or since the animation is, well, this, I really suspected for a bit that this might have been some sort of fan animation that was created to go along with what was originally an audio work. But upon further research, no, this is a professionally created piece of animation, and Lumpkin was always intended to be a cartoon. It may have been released on audio cassette as well. I found a few bits of evidence pointing to that, though weirdly there are no audio cassettes of this that I could find on eBay. But if that was the case, then it seems like it was a side-by-side release, not a situation where the audio came first and then they created this cartoon later. Anyway, back to the plot. We're 2 minutes into this thing now, so it's time for some exposition.
We must find the largest, scariest pumpkin in the field. Tonight is the most important night of the year. If we can scare the most people with our pumpkin, I will become the head witch.
Well, that was certainly efficient.
But Mother, I don't want to scare anyone. Besides, it's spooky out here.
Nonsense, Tara.
And now we've also seen the further laziness of the animation, where the characters' mouths just sort of hang agape when they're done talking. Also, I love how Tara just cycles through a bunch of facial expressions here. Like, this is pretty much all of the facial expressions she's going to have throughout the entire thing, and they're all just crammed into this one line. Like, what is this eye roll even doing here? I have no idea, but at least it makes her look a little less stoned than she does for most of the cartoon. We see this one pumpkin looking all big and scary next to this little pumpkin who looks very cute and frightened. Goodness, I wonder who that little fellow could be. Anyway, back to the witches. Why do they have to be so frightening?
Why do we have to frighten everyone?
Why do we have to frighten everyone? Why, because, well, that's what witches do. Witches have to be scary. They need a pumpkin to carry. Enormous in size, with fire in his eyes, to scare the kids on Halloween.
Oh, thank goodness. We've gone 51 entire seconds since the last song. It's about time. No, but seriously, I like this song too. And I like it because it's actually like a good Halloween song. I put this thing on my playlist. I don't like it in the same way that I like this pumpkin that someone accidentally saved as a JPEG instead of a PNG. Also, take a good look at the fire coming out of this pumpkin's eyes, because after this shot, the animators completely forget how to draw fire for the rest of the movie. Like, this fire isn't great, but it's about the same quality as the surrounding animation, so it doesn't particularly draw attention to itself as being bad. Cherish that while you can. Maggie has some very fun expressiveness in this song. Like, look at her here.
Witches have to be frightful. Don't let them catch you being delightful.
The way that not only her face and body language, but even her hair change to match the words frightful and delightful, like, this has good bones. This is taking advantage of the unique things that animation as a medium can do. And then there are even some places in this bit where they remember to have continuity between shots. And that's pretty impressive for Lumpkin the Pumpkin. Like, she ends the close-up in this position, and then she starts the wide angle in the same position. And then, okay, they forget to do it here, but look, they remember again. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And these spooky trees look pretty neat, and the bats aren't too bad, so, okay, maybe I judged it too harshly. Maybe it's all gonna be uphill from here, and no, it isn't, because here comes more fire. Look at this fireball. You are not fooling me, Peeler Rose Productions. I know that you purchased this asset and dropped it in here because Bobby Goldsboro insisted that Maggie make a fireball, but you didn't know how to draw it. But let's put a pin in the fire for a second. We're boring Tara. But maybe Maggie can recapture her interest with a dance? Does not match the mouth movements at all, but this is probably some of the best animation in the whole thing. Like, Tara cycles through the same 5 facial expressions throughout the whole film, but Maggie gets all of these expressive and unique bits of movement. I don't understand why they did this, since Tara is the protagonist. Maybe they started with Maggie and then ran out of money. I do not know. But anyway, Maggie decides to let Tara pick the pumpkin this year. But then she's immediately like, oh, look at that one. That's the biggest, scariest one. Tara, you must pick that one. But of course, Tara ignores the big, scary pumpkin and picks cute little Lumpkin, probably because she's high off her ass. Maggie pretty much immediately regrets her decision.
I should have known better. Now I'll be the laughingstock of Witchburg.
I did not edit any sound effects in there. That sad trombone is canon. I don't know why Maggie and Tara can't just each pick their own pumpkin, but we don't have time to deal with that because we need to get to the witch's bonfire. Oh no. Oh wait, did I just say fire? Oh god. Oh god, it's so central to this scene. It's the only thing in frame that's moving. The narrator talks about it. The sound effect for a crackling fire plays throughout this entire scene. Like, nobody could be bothered to just draw a frickin' fire. Okay, let's just cut to a close-up so I can get this thing out of my sight.
Oh, what a scary pumpkin. Why, it's almost as scary as mine.
The only thing scarier than my pumpkin is your face.
Okay, two things. One, why does this witch and this witch alone have so much reverb on her voice? Was she recorded in a different studio or like in a cave? Why not just have Bobby Goldsboro voice this witch too? He's already Maggie. Or was this an intentional choice? Is this like a special witch power? I'm baffled. But two, wouldn't calling a witch's face scary be like a compliment? How is it an insult? The whole premise of this thing is that whichever witch is the scariest will get to be their leader. So it seems like it would be a good thing for your face to be scary, but okay, these side characters are only so important anyway. When are Maggie and Tara coming? Okay, back to the wide shot, and are you freaking kidding me? Just two triangles wiggling around? Could you not get that same fire from earlier? At least that was something. Okay, I'm gonna need Tara to share some of her stash with me so I can just like mellow out. Of course, all the witches make fun of Lumpkin because he's so small and he's not scary at all. And Madame Reverb says that Tara's not a very good witch, which sends Maggie into Mama Bear mode because only she's allowed to say stuff like that. So the witches all go off to try to perform the scariest act, but Maggie decides that there's just no point in her going out because she's not going to be able to scare anyone with Lumpkin. But even though Maggie doesn't understand her daughter, she still tries to be a good mom, and she tells Tara that she should go out and have some fun. And she even lets Tara take the broom, which, okay, this might actually be my favorite part of the whole cartoon. Watch this broom's face. So surprised, so excited. This broom is ready for a night on the town. And it's a good thing that it's apparently sentient because Tara is in no fit state to drive. So witch number 1 tries to give some kids a fright by giving her pumpkin bat wings and having it fly toward them. And this should work, right? Like, it's a flying pumpkin with bat wings. I would think that this would actually give anyone really quite a fright, let alone a child. You'd think that they could maybe put a line in here about someone like, oh, I can see the wire, or oh, it's probably just a balloon, or something like that to explain why they're not really that afraid. But no, instead it's pumpkin baseball, which gives us a convenient excuse to use the same bit of animation 3 times in a row. The witch gets knocked into a trash can and she gets some sad trombone music for her troubles.
Oh, look, Lumpkin. What a nice looking neighborhood. Let's go trick-or-treating there. Look, Lumpkin. There's a group of kids. Let's join them.
Tara joins the children as they walk up to a house. She doesn't know they're up to some mischief.
Say what you like about Lumpkin the Pumpkin, but it is not confusing. Everything is laid out very, very clearly. So yeah, these kids are up to some mischief.
Okay, guys, let's turn the water hose on that old lady's front porch.
Wait a minute. Why do you want to do that?
Because it's fun, that's why. And who are you anyway?
I'm Tara, a witch. And that's not very nice.
Peak dialogue, Bobby. Nailed it in one. So the kids say that the old lady is mean, but Tara's like, well, how do you know she's mean if you've never even talked to her? So Tara goes up to talk to the old lady, and guess what? She's nice.
Thank you very much for all the candy and fruit. You're very kind.
I guess this is like a micro lesson about healthy treats. Whatever. The point is that being nice is good. And if you're nice to people, maybe they'll be nice to you too. And that's good. So now we go over to witch number 2, who's trying to scare some kids at a high school football game. She takes her pumpkin and she kind of makes it into a pumpkin football and sends it down to replace the real football with her scary pumpkin. But the kids, they're like 1 field goal away from winning. So they're like, okay, just kick this thing. And damn, this team doesn't skip leg day because the pumpkin goes flying right out of the stadium and over to the witch. Okay, 3 things. 1, this awkward silence really makes me miss the sad trombone. 2, why is the witch on the ground? Shouldn't she still be up on her broom, like watching this whole thing play out? And 3, Bobby Goldsboro, writer and narrator, is very much laughing at his own joke here. So we're back to our dynamic duo, and Lumpkin apologizes for not being very scary, and Tara's like, oh no, Lumpkin, I don't like to scare people either. But Tara does wish that her mother could be the head witch because she thinks Maggie would make some good changes around here. And, I actually really do like these little touches that they have that show that Tara and Maggie really do care about each other. Like, it would be really easy to just have them hate each other and always be at odds, and I think a lesser story would do that and play it for laughs. But no, Tara and Maggie, they have their differences, but at the end of the day, they really do love each other, and I think that's nice. Now we meet a little girl whose friends have ditched her because she's not scary enough, and Tara's like,
Well, you certainly scared me, and I'm a witch.
Okay, are witches just out and proud in this universe? Usually there's some sort of a secret, but Tara certainly doesn't seem to think that that's the case. Wait a minute, is that why those kids weren't afraid of the flying pumpkin earlier? Because they just know that witches exist, and every year they try to scare kids with pumpkins? But maybe they also know that the scaring is the entire end goal of the witches, so they don't actually pose a real threat, which makes all of the scares fall flat. But if that's the case, then why would this cynicism just be setting in this year? It seems like this is a thing that they do every year, and I get the idea that this is the first time that they've really had a problem trying to scare the kids, so what's up with that? I really don't think we're supposed to dig into this lore too deeply, but I have questions. Anyway, Tara uses her flying broomstick to help the little ghost girl scare her friends, which, I thought you were diametrically opposed to, Tara? Isn't that
your whole deal?
Shouldn't you be using kindness to talk to these kids and reach some sort of understanding? I mean, personally, I think this response is justified, but it seems like a pretty big break from
your defining character trait.
And literally right after this, she's like,
I don't think they'll bother you again. But you really don't have to scare someone to enjoy Halloween. Just dress up and have fun.
Tara, you were the one who decided to scare these kids. This whole operation was your idea.
Thanks, Tara.
Well, now this little girl has scared me. This sweet little face hides some dark secrets, you can tell. But Lumpkin sees no inconsistencies with Tara's actions. He just wishes that he could help the kids too.
I wish I could help kids like you, Tara, but I'm just a pumpkin. What could I do?
Why did they cut back to Tara not saying anything in response to that? Oh my god, Tara, you can't just not answer that question. It's rude. I wish that I could help the kids like you, Tara, but I can't do anything. I have no skills or talents. Maybe if only someone could think of something, anything that I can do right. Ice cold. So now Lumpkin's gonna have to sing a whole sappy song about his feelings or whatever. This is easily the worst song in the movie. If this ever aired on TV, which, I don't think it ever did, but if it had ever aired on TV, then this would be the point where you get up to get more snacks. The whole thing is about how Lumpkin wishes that he could make it safe for the kids to go out on Halloween by lighting up the night, which is nice and all, but it comes out of absolutely nowhere. All of the kids' problems up until this point have come from being bullied or not understanding people who are different from them. It's had nothing to do with it being too dark out.
If I could find a way to turn the nighttime into day, I'd make it bright at night so folks could see.
Lumpkin, that would not be a good idea. For one thing, it would seriously mess up everyone's circadian rhythms, but also, with Halloween specifically, a lot of activities take place at night frickin' on purpose, Lumpkin. It's darker, it's got a spookier atmosphere. And do you know what wholesome, family-friendly Halloween activity would be completely ruined by getting rid of the darkness at night? Frickin' jack-o'-lanterns, Lumpkin! You would be turning your back on your own kind by getting rid of the nighttime. You are not thinking this through. But that's not the dumbest thing in this song. This is.
If just one lumpkin wish came true for me, that is what my lumpkin wish would be.
What is a lumpkin wish? Who talks like this? Does anyone blow out their birthday candles okay, I'm about to make a Sheila wish? I feel like Bobby is trying to play with the concept of a Christmas wish, but Halloween wish has too many syllables to scan properly here, so he went with lumpkin instead. But why not call it a pumpkin wish? At least that kind of sounds like a thing. Or hell, you could make it a thing in this cartoon that you're writing. Maybe the pumpkins want to help witches scare kids because if they do a good job, the witch will grant them one pumpkin wish. And Lumpkin is sad that he's not scary because he really wants to get his wish, but then the twist at the end could be that, of course, Tara grants it anyway. But no, we've just got Lumpkin and his little Lumpkin wish. Well, I hope you've all gotten your snacks because things are about to get real.
Suddenly we hear the sound of screeching tires.
Okay, all of the other narrations up until this point have been describing visuals, which at least makes some sense if maybe it is doubling as an audio cassette, or even just if you wanted to be more accessible to visually impaired kids. That would be cool. But here, the narration is describing a sound, and if you can hear the narration, you can hear the sound of screeching tires. I don't know, maybe they're just trying to distract us from the fact that they do not know how light works. But nothing can distract me from the dialogue that follows this. And look, I know that the dialogue up until this point hasn't exactly been Oscar-worthy, but this really takes the cake.
Are you all right?
Yes, we're fine. But what happened?
What happened? Why, I almost hit you, that's what. If I hadn't seen something orange, I would have. I guess it was this little pumpkin that I saw. It's a good thing you were carrying it. It's too bad all these trick-or-treaters don't have one. These kids don't realize how hard it is to see them at night. Well, I'm glad you're all right. Just be careful.
What? Dude, if you seriously came that close to hitting those kids, then why would you admit it? And then go on to blame them for the situation? Like, hey guy, you're driving. It's your job to look out for pedestrians, especially kids on frickin' Halloween of all nights. And your car has functioning headlights, I know, because I remember how skillfully drawn they were earlier. Wait a minute. That's a crosswalk. These kids are crossing the street in a clearly marked crosswalk, and you have the nerve to blame them for you almost committing vehicular manslaughter. Wow. Just wow. Also, this little girl is wearing white, so why point out Lumpkin's orange in particular as the thing you saw? And also, what is up with the proportions here? I guess I missed this earlier because I was too fascinated by the headlights, but these two little kids and a tiny pumpkin take up pretty much the entire street. It's so small. And the car is like driving right down the middle, which I guess it could be a one-way street, but that seems pretty unlikely in a residential neighborhood like this.
Remember what the man said? It's too bad all kids don't have you with them.
Tara, were you freaking listening to anything Lumpkin said during his little song? Were you also out of the room getting snacks? Your reaction shots made it seem like you were listening, but you seriously didn't get this idea until just now? Well, better late than never. Let's see Tara cast her big spell. Oh man, no expense was spared on these next level effects. I kind of want to make fun of how excited these kids are to get their Lumpkin-shaped safety glow stickers and things, but honestly, if it were Halloween and I were suddenly gifted a bunch of pumpkin-shaped accessories that lit up or glowed in the dark, like, I'd be pretty stoked about it too. So clearly, we get it at this point, right? But just to be sure, let's have Tara really drive this thing home, PSA style.
Look, Tara, all the kids have my face on their costumes.
That's right, Lumpkin. Now you'll be helping every kid to be safe on Halloween. Too many kids get hurt every Halloween because people in cars can't see them. But with your face shining, they'll be easy to see. It looks like you're gonna be famous, Lumpkin.
Now you would think that this ham-fisted approach to teaching a lesson is in here because it's like a mini commercial for a real-world version of this, right? It's not great, but at least it makes sense and serves some sort of a purpose. You know, capitalism. You would think, or anyway, I would think, that every Lumpkin VHS would come with like a glow-in-the-dark Lumpkin sticker and a form that parents can fill out to mail order, light up Lumpkin necklaces and bracelets and etc. But no, as far as I can tell, none of that actually happened. I cannot find any evidence of high-vis Lumpkin merch ever existing. So like, why shove this in here? Why abandon all of the morals you've been trying to teach up until this point and take a hard left turn into stay safe, kids, or you'll get hit by a car? What was the point of this? I'd love to ask Bobby himself, but the fan Q&A on BobbyGoldsboro.com has barely been updated since the 1990s, so I doubt we'll ever get any answers, unfortunately. Let's go back to these witches at their ridiculous fire and see how they're coping with not being able to scare anybody.
You mean to say that not one of you managed to scare a single person with your pumpkins?
And you had the nerve to laugh at Tara. Why, she must have done at least as well as you, and she's not even trying to scare anyone.
Maggie is easily the best character in this thing. You go, Mama Witch. We cut to a wide shot and the fire is just gone. They have completely given up on making the fire happen. Those triangles from earlier were too complicated to replicate, so the witches have just made their own fire disappear. Or, I guess, made it invisible, because we still hear those fire crackling sound effects throughout the whole scene. We just don't actually get to see it. But you know what? Whatever. That's the last thing I'm going to say about that fire. We are almost done with this thing. Let's bring it home.
Looks like you gave up on that little pumpkin, Tara. How could he have possibly scared anyone? Look, here comes Lumpkin.
And there comes Lumpkin. And there comes Lumpkin.
Lumpkin is everywhere.
The witches all dive for cover as dozens of lumpkins are coming closer and closer. Finally, they see that the lumpkins are actually worn by all the children.
Why are the children coming to the witches' bonfire? How did they get up that cliff? Like, the witches all fly in, but these kids must have climbed? That doesn't seem very safe, Lumpkin. But I guess we had to wrap up this whole head witch plot, and now that Tara is the only one who scared anybody with her pumpkin tonight, Tara is the new head witch. What are the ramifications of giving this literal child a leadership position? The world may never know. Let's get one more blatant continuity error for the road, as Tara's red hat is shown here, but then disappears as the head witch hat gets bestowed upon her, but the red hat reappears as she comes into frame to kiss Lumpkin, and credits. That's it. That's the show. We do get one last song as the credits roll. This one is a theme for Lumpkin. It's not nearly as good as A Frightful Night for Halloween or Witches Have to Be Scary, but it does get stuck in my head every time I watch this thing, and it's miles better than Lumpkin's Wish, so I will give it a solid okay.
There's got to be a million pumpkins, but none of them compares to Lumpkin. Every time you see his face, it's lighting up the place, so trick-or-treaters can be seen. Every Halloween, it's Lumpkin.
And that's Lumpkin the Pumpkin, a cartoon that, according to BobbyGoldsboro.com, is fast becoming a classic. As is, by the way, the web design of BobbyGoldsboro.com. Fast becoming a classic seems like a bit of a stretch, but I guess I've watched it every year since I found it, so who knows, maybe someday. Then again, I've sat through all of the Great Bear scares, so I'll pretty much watch any Halloween-themed cartoon regardless of quality. But wait, there's more. Remember Swamp Critters of Lost Lagoon? Bobby's TV show with a frog named after a Confederate general? Well, it has a Halloween episode. And I guess Bobby Goldsboro thought, well, I've already done a Halloween special. Why let it go to waste? Let's get some Lumpkin up in this bitch. And so we get Puppet Lumpkin. I would give my left arm to own this thing. If it is ever up for auction, cross your fingers for me. So I found out that this episode existed, and of course I had to watch it. More Lumpkin content, sign me up. But I could not find it anywhere online. There are several episodes of Swamp Critters that have been uploaded to YouTube, but, you know, of course, not this one. Luckily, our friend BobbyGoldsboro.com hooked me up, because they have for sale a DVD of this episode, Swamp Critters of Lost Lagoon, Bayou Halloween. That's right, folks. A digital video disc containing a single half-hour episode of a TV show. And of course, I bought it. because I had to know. Now, I'm not going to go into this episode in quite as much detail as the original special, but let's take a look. First, we establish that there's going to be a Halloween party tonight in the swamp. Cool. Then Billy Bob Possum and Ribbit E. Lee, who constantly calls everyone son, by the way, which only makes things worse, and things were already really bad, so great. Anyway, these two meet Lumpkin, and he seems down in the dumpkins.
Well, howdy, Lumpkin. What seems to be the problem? Well, this will be my first Halloween.
Hey, bud, I hate to break it to you, but pumpkins generally only get the one Halloween. Also, the original cartoon takes place on Halloween as well, which makes me think that this episode and the cartoon do not coexist in the same timeline. Noted. Anyway, Lumpkin's upset because all of the pumpkins in the swamp are going to see who can scare the most critters tonight, and Lumpkin doesn't know how to scare anybody.
Son, what do you want to go around scaring folks for anyway?
'Cause that's what pumpkins are supposed to do. Witches try to find the scariest pumpkins to take with them on Halloween night. And I just know that no witch is gonna pick me. I'll be laughed at by all the other pumpkins.
Okay, so this is a different timeline from the original, but this thing with the witches and the pumpkins still applies, I guess. Honestly, I don't really understand why the witches need pumpkins to scare people, since they have magic. Also, is anyone, actually afraid of pumpkins?
If there's one thing of which I'm incredibly wary, it's those pumpkin-faced jacks. They're so terribly scary.
Okay, sure, Martin Short's Cat in the Hat is, but I feel like he's probably the exception, not the rule. Anyway, you know what? I've thought it through, and it's actually a pretty cute and original piece of lore, so I'm just gonna go ahead and suspend my disbelief. Billy Bob Possum decides to help Lumpkin by taking him to see Hattie, who may or may not be a witch. So they take the riverboat down to Foggy Bottom Swamp.
Hey, look! Something's going on over there.
Oh, what could be going on over there?
Let's go see.
Well, that music sounds familiar. Are we going to get a puppet version of What a Frightful Night for Halloween?
Deep inside the pumpkin patch, sitting in a row, the strangest pumpkins you have ever seen.
Oh, I guess not. They literally just dropped the sequence right into the middle of the episode. Okay, well, I guess that's 2 minutes that the actors don't have to spend wearing these costumes, so good for them. But I am starting to get disappointed that I spent money on this thing expecting new Lumpkin content, and instead, so far, I am getting this.
There it is, just ahead.
Yes, let's move on to Hattie's place. We waste no time in getting to the second song, which also has its audio track just fully lifted from Lumpkin the Pumpkin, but hey, at least this marionette's going to dance. Weird that she's a marionette whose style and size are completely different from every other character, but hey, I guess we've got to come in under budget, so all we have to do is never show them in frame at the same time. Problem solved. Oops, there it is. Weird choice. So they still stick a few clips from the cartoon in here, and the puppetry isn't exactly amazing, but whatever. We're getting a new plot point now. It's time to make Lumpkin scary. However is Hattie going to manage that? Well, she gives Lumpkin a little reed, and she tells him to blow into it whenever he wants to be scary, and... Oh no! What a frightening balloon! I'm absolutely horrified. Apparently it's the scariest thing these swamp critters have ever seen, so he'll be the most frightening pumpkin in the bayou. High bar, I'm sure. Oh yeah, the competition is fierce. How could anything possibly be scarier than these guys? Well, with a balloon, that's how. But, you know, be careful what you wish for, because Lumpkin pretty much immediately regrets scaring anybody, and he decides that he'd really rather help people than scare them, And ironically, this was the scariest thing in the episode to me because I was sure that it was leading into a Lumpkin's wish. But we dodged that bullet and the fog rolls in. And it's so hard to navigate in all this thick fog. It's time for Lumpkin, to save the day. Yup, your differences have made you useful, and that makes them okay. So we get back to the party and the band starts to play and... What's that? Why, that's not from the cartoon. It's an original Halloween song. This is everything that I've been waiting for. This is everything I bought this DVD to obtain. So how is it? It's okay.
The strangest things come out on Halloween. Oh, the witches start to sing and dance and mixing up their brew and doing things that you have never seen. And all the pumpkins start to dance and ghosts and goblins too. Oh, the strangest things come out on Halloween.
Not exactly a banger, but it's got a cute premise and charming instrumentals and this pumpkin-headed puppet, which I'm all here for. If you want to watch this and listen to the whole song, I will have a link to that down in the description. And then they close out their show with Lumpkin's theme, but at least this one is actually a new performance. They even make a minor lyric change, so now everyone can share Lumpkin's smile instead of wearing it because they've taken out that whole thing with the light-up patches and stickers and whatnot.
Every Halloween it's Lumpkin, glowing everywhere, and everyone can share his smile.
And now we are really done. That is the entire Lumpkin the Pumpkin cinematic universe as of the time of this recording. But since Bobby Goldsboro has moved on to oil painting, okay, it doesn't seem like we'll be getting any new Lumpkin content anytime soon, for better or for worse. So what to make of this whole thing? Well, I, for one, am so hungry for animated Halloween specials that I will take what I can get. As I mentioned earlier, I have watched this thing every year since I found it, and I found it in my 20s, so I can't even blame that on childhood nostalgia. I think there's just something genuinely charming about this thing. I love Maggie the Mama Witch, I love this sentient broom, I really, really enjoy the first two songs. Maybe I've spent too much time watching and enjoying bad movies, but this thing just works for me. I had to watch Lumpkin the Pumpkin a lot to make this video, and while I certainly found plenty of flaws to point out, I also never, got sick of watching it. So at the end of the day, I can't help but recommend it. Go watch Lumpkin the Pumpkin, it's fun. I'll certainly keep watching it every October. I'll keep dragging family and friends over to watch it with me. I will always have a special place in my heart for Lumpkin the Pumpkin. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in learning more about Halloween music, then check out the Radio Transylvania podcast. And if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, why don't you go ahead and like and subscribe. Have a happy Halloween, and stay safe out there. I gotta do popcorn with these fangs. It's actually not safe. Okay. Kids, be safe. Don't choke on your fangs. Take them out before you eat your popcorn.